There's no attachment. I'd like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. Welcome to the new year. If we could take a moment of silence, please, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Ms. Nenny.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Muterspaw.
Here.
Mayor Condrey.
Here. Okay, first we have this evening any citizen comments. Did we receive any citizen comment
Did not
cards?
receive any comment cards. If anyone has any, I'll be happy to receive those now.
We know there's a pinning ceremony when it's full and we have no comment cards. Okay, great. Next we have council comments. We'll start with Mr. Muterspaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Won't be long. Just congratulations in advance to everybody getting promoted tonight and getting pinned. Just know going through the ranks, it's really hard to do, to move up and to achieve some good things. So good for you guys. Really proud of you guys because we have the best fire department around. There's no question. And hopefully you guys will continue to do good work as you move up and the older guys step away. It's always good to see the younger guys moving up. So congratulations to you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Moon.
Yes, I'm going to completely echo Mr. Muterspaw. Congratulations in advance to the 5 folks with the fire department that are getting promoted tonight. Thank you for your dedication to our city, and looking forward to seeing all the great things you can continue to do for the city and for the department. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Nitty.
All right, you guys don't want me to bore you by saying it again, but thank you all for being here and for supporting those members of your family who are moving up in the ranks tonight. It always takes everyone in the family to get to that point. So to all of your families, thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting your loved ones. They go out and risk their lives for us, so our gratitude goes to you. And then because I was not here before the holidays, I just want to say I hope that you all enjoyed a wonderful holiday season with your family and friends, and I wish you all the best in the new year. Thank you.
Mr. Farrell.
What they said. Thanks, Mayor.
All right. Well, I will also follow that up with a congratulations. Thank you for your service, and it takes a whole community to support you as well, and I know you've got a lot of support here in Middletown, so keep up the great work. Look forward to hearing more about what you're doing. And that's all we've got for council comments tonight. That brings us to city manager report. Did I miss the pin? Oh, it's all the way at the after consent agenda. Okay. Sorry, sometimes
Yeah, we
it's
had to
earlier.
get to the consent agenda first
Okay.
to promote them. So
Right.
tonight on the city manager's report, I would like to introduce John Graff, who is the superintendent and CEO of Butler Tech, and he's here to give us an update on the Butler Tech aviation hangar that will come to Middletown Regional Airport, and ask for further support.
Well, I didn't know that there were this many people excited about the aviation education hangar in Middletown, but thank you for attending. Congratulations to all those folks for the penning ceremony this evening. I had initially had a 65-minute presentation, but I will condense it to 10 to 15 minutes. Those in the audience, when I get to 14 and a half minutes, you can start clapping, and then I'll exit the stage as best as possible. I do want to thank the council members and Mayor Condrey for giving me the opportunity to give you a bit of an update about where we are with the aviation education hangar. Also, just to give you a quick background, again, my name is John Graft. I'm Superintendent CEO of Butler Tech. I'm going into my 7th year at Butler Tech. I'm also a member of the Middletown Chamber, also a member of the Middletown Community Foundation, and have been a lifelong resident of Butler County. So tonight I just want to share with you a couple of things that are happening and requests that Butler Tech would like to engage in the conversation with the City Council. Just a quick overview of Butler Tech. We started in 1975. Over the last 20 years, we've expanded from 1 campus to 5 campuses. Now we have 55 physical locations in our satellite programming, serving over 18,000 students in a year's time, between grades 7th grade through 12th grade. We now have 5 campuses and have almost 550,000 square feet of space, operating also 300,000 square feet of satellite programs as well. We are requesting this evening of the council, we have been collaborating with a number of entities at developing this aviation education hangar. We were gracious enough to receive some ARPA funding from the county commissioners, almost $7 million. We're still working through that process to get the land lease agreement with the Middletown Airport, as well as the physical facilities drawing. We've done the architectural RFP or RFQ, request for qualifications, and are working through that process. Butler Tech is also adding $2 million to this project, and we're requesting the city of Middletown to give consideration for some of their ARPA funding at a request of $2 million as well. The OSIP grant, which is an acronym for Ohio Site Inventory Plan, we've been working on and collaboratively with Nathan and with Paul to submit that grant to the state. We've had some initial conversations with the state. They have encouraged us to apply for that grant for $2 million for a total of a $13 million project. Project scope would be approximately 25,000 square foot facility with a 10,000 square foot hangar. That would be in addition to classrooms, labs, and a community space that would be on or directly adjacent to airport property. Why Middletown? First, as a lifelong resident, going to town for me was going to Middletown. And so I have a heart for Middletown, but I also think it makes good economic sense from an economic development standpoint, being 50 miles from the Cincinnati Regional Kentucky International Airport, 33 miles from Dayton International Airport, and 34 miles from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Aviation is a growing industry. There's over 550 aviation engineering companies within the state of Ohio. And from the perspective of Middletown, we see an opportunity with our current campus enrollment of serving already 131 Middletown students, our program enrollment at 221 for our satellite programs, meaning that grades 7 through 12 receive Butler Tech programs at Middletown High School. We see an opportunity to serve an additional 200 students in our aviation education hangar when it comes to full fruition. That wouldn't be necessarily all Middletown students, but obviously with the proximity being at Hook Field, Middletown students would likely want to apply for programming at our education hangar. In addition to that, 47% of the jobs are being phased out due to technological advances. 65% of secondary students are predicted to work in jobs that do not yet exist. And so this collaborative effort that we're trying to put together is really a community effort at defining where the new aerospace industry is going to be and what are those new future-proof jobs that we need to have at the Middletown Airport, and how can that be an economic catalyst for the city of Middletown and for the community that it serves. These are currently the highest paying jobs in aviation in the year in 22. We also see in some of our conversations with companies that we're working with already of new innovative jobs that will be a part of the advanced technologies that are in aviation altogether. But you can see these are good high-paying jobs, and many of these programs that we already have students in our programming go on to do a variety of these different industries. The second reason I would add to this is that Middletown has already put a lot of effort to developing the airport. The city of Middletown did a rotating beacon, perimeter fencing, pilot-controlled lighting, pavement upgrades, taxiway paving program, and so it is ripe for an opportunity to allow Butler Tech and our partners to collaborate with the city of Middletown at providing an additional catalyst for not only students but businesses to locate at the airport if they desire to do so, and we would provide them the opportunities to hire our students upon completion of programming. We have experience in our construction industry. I've earned all this gray hair, so I like to say when I started at Butler Tech, my hair was jet black, and now it's got a lot of gray in it. But we've added a lot of programming over the last 7 years, and even prior to me arriving at Butler Tech. We've done new construction, just recently completed a $14 million project in Monroe. We've added 10,000 square feet in-house renovations. We've did adaptations to a fire tower, and we annually do $4 million in permanent improvement projects annually. This is really the crux of the operation of what we're asking the community to think about, and what we're asking the council to think about, is this idea that this education space is not only just an education space. It is a collaborative space for education, business, and industry to collaborate together, equipment manufacturers to come together. This would be a co-located space so that for-profit businesses, as well as community colleges, four-year universities, and Butler Tech, and the city of Middletown, and Middletown City Schools would all be a part of this collaborative space. This really talks about this coordination effort that we're putting forth. We also have another project that we're working on in the city of Hamilton for advanced manufacturing, but we see this opportunity for the city of Middletown to focus on aviation because of the assets that you do have at the airport. We see this as an area of growth potential. Yes, we're an education entity, but we are in economic development. When you talk to business and industry, the single most important thing that they say is that they need a skilled workforce. And the aviation education hangar could be that space that provides an opportunity for for-profit businesses and other aviation industries to come and locate either at the airport space or near the airport space as well. These are our current partners that we're having conversations with. The City of Middletown, Middletown City Schools, Sinclair, Miami, Cincinnati State. We've worked with CVG, Standard Aero, the Cincinnati Jet Center, Safe Skies, of which we all have interns and co-ops in these spaces. The project, what we anticipate is that we would submit the Ohio Site Inventory request in January this month. Hopefully that will be awarded in February. Then April and May, we would start doing road work design, do site preparation, and then by August and September, hopefully we would be doing some construction of roadway and utilities to get the building ready for construction. March, we would do roadways, utilities, and site preparation, and then March of '24, we would be site ready for an end user. I think I've done okay on time. I'm about 12 minutes. But just in summary, I know that the council's work is really important, and I know that you have to prioritize what it is that you need to do with some of the federal funding that you've received. Butler Tech did not receive any ARPA funding. I know K-12 school districts did. It's part of the reason why I think the Butler County Commissioners have supported these efforts at both in the city of Hamilton and in the city of Middletown. And I do believe that the numbers, when we did updated numbers with Branstetter and Carroll helping us get updated numbers, as well as working with one of our current architectural firms, the $13 million we do believe gets us the number we need to have in order to complete the project and open expeditiously. I think Butler Tech's reputation about doing great work, serving students, reaching the greatest number of students and transforming lives is evident over the past 50 years of what we've done, and we look forward to the opportunity to partner with the city of Middletown.
Thanks, John.
Happy to entertain any questions.
Is advanced air mobility still a major focus area that you're looking at for the hangar and its tenant use?
Yeah, one of the things that we decided when we were doing these, because we wanted to make sure that we were doing future-proof jobs, was January 11th, we have a meeting coming up with business and industry, and we've invited a number of business and industry partners to come and have conversation with us about what is the programming you want. Generally speaking, in the education world, educators design the curriculum and hope it matches what business and industry is saying. We have been purposeful at not doing that, and so we've been to the Springfield-Beckley Airport. We know how those how that has become a robust area. We're having conversations with those CVG as well as some of our defense partners in order for them to design what is the programming they want so that they would locate at our education hangar, and that is one of the areas that we're going to be having conversations about on January 11th.
And when you say site ready for end user, does that mean ready to build the hangar at that point?
Ready to go ground up.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
John, on the page here, it says program enrollment, 221 students. Is that an estimate for Middletown students in the aviation program, or is that,
That's our current enrollment of students that we have in programming right now.
would that increase with,
It would increase with the additional 25,000 square feet of the space that
do
we
you have an idea? I mean, I know it's probably hard to, an estimate.
Well, what is your percentage of students that come from Middletown schools? It would probably be a similar percentage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the percentage of students that come off the top of our head, but I know that I'm not sure what a graduating class of Middletown students are today, but I can get you that number.
No rush. Just curious, really.
John, thanks for your interest in partnering with us. Would love to see this work out. Obviously, we've got to work the details. But my question is, and I'm sure you're aware, a couple years ago, the city got a state capital grant for $700,000 or $800,000. I assume that's in the $2 million bucket that you're kind of looking at. That would be part of our contribution, or?
Well, I think that would be at the discretion of the council and working with your economic development folks to decide how that funding, the total request that Butler Tech would be making to complete the project, we would be asking the city of Middletown to contribute $2 million. How you go about receiving that funding, if there's an additional $750,000, I think that would come off of that $2 million request.
And I assume you're property tax exempt?
Yes.
Okay.
And we've already worked through our attorneys to make sure that there's no conflicts there with airport property. I think we just received a legal update, I think today, maybe in fact, that we haven't even passed on to Nathan, I don't believe. So you're finding out right now at this very moment, maybe.
And is Butler Tech going to own the hangar? Is that how that's going to work?
So I think the best way to do it would be a ground lease, so that, because there are a lot of restrictions with FAA property, the city would retain ownership of the land, we would retain ownership of the building, and then at the extension of the life of that building, you know, the property's obviously still owned by the city.
And would you plan to move the program that's in the Jets hangar now to the new building, or retain that as well?
We would likely move
Okay.
that space to the new hangar, yes.
And just out of curiosity, you mentioned maybe partnering with four-year university. I would assume that would be Miami since they're in town.
We have had numerous conversations with Miami. We've had conversations with Cincinnati State. We've had ongoing conversations with Sinclair. We really want to utilize all of the assets of our community colleges and four-year universities. So
And
yes,
If you're at a place where you feel comfortable sharing, like what would that look like? And maybe you still need to build that out, but again, just
so really what we're looking for are pathways to employment. And so we would utilize what programs are the best type of programs that meets the needs of that particular business and industry. So if there's an airframe and power pathway for Cincinnati State to partner with us, or Sinclair, if it's a drone program, we would utilize their greatest assets that they have in their programming and then place students in those particular pathways. One of the things that I think has been really remarkable over the past several years is just the fluidity of colleges and universities and the community colleges and the career tech centers working together at designing the program to meet the needs of the students instead of the latter. So I would see it as a little bit of a hybrid of a combination of any and all of that.
And I think one of the things that Sinclair maybe had mentioned when we met with them was even utilizing instructors from one college in a course, or one program in a course for another. So Butler Tech and Sinclair perhaps sharing instructors back and forth for different needs that have subject matter expertise in certain areas that fit in curriculum. I think that was one.
And we also have, some of our instructors are also adjunct professors for both Sinclair and for Cincinnati State, as well as Miami.
Right.
Thank you so much for all your work in the community. Thanks for getting these students ready for the future, whatever that may be.
Thank you.
Great. Paul, do you have anything else for city
Up for
manager
city
reports?
managers. Thank
Okay. Ms. Gank, will you please present the consent agenda for us?
For your consideration this evening, we have to purchase hydrofluorosilic. I was practiced all day. To purchase hydrofluorosilic acid, HFS, from PVS Knollwood Chemicals of Detroit, Michigan, in the amount of $5.27 per gallon for use at the water treatment plant during the 2023 calendar year. We estimate the usage of approximately 12,444 gallons at the water treatment plant throughout the 2023 calendar year for about $62,555.99. Also, to purchase aqueous sodium bisulfate solution, sodium bisulfate, from PVS Chemical Solutions of Detroit, Michigan, in the amount of $3.20 per gallon for use at the water reclamation facility. We estimate the usage of approximately 10,000 gallons at the water reclamation facility throughout the 2023 calendar year for about $32,000. To purchase liquid chlorine, sodium chlorite, 12 to 13% concentration from JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated of Beech Grove, Indiana, in the amount of $2.0219 per gallon for use at the water reclamation facility. We estimate the usage of approximately 38,000 gallons at the water reclamation facility throughout the 2023 calendar year, about $76,832.20. To purchase liquid chlorine, sodium hypochlorite 15 to 18% concentration from JCI Jones Chemical Incorporated of Beech Grove, Indiana, in the amount of $2.26 per gallon for use at the water treatment plant. We estimate the usage of 47,052 gallons at the water treatment plant throughout the 2023 calendar year, $116,182.08. To confirm the reinstatements of Sarah Clemens to the position of Executive Clerk in the Department of Finance Division of Tax, and Brett Vance to the position of Firefighter Paramedic in the Department of Public Safety Division of Fire. To confirm the personnel appointments of Elijah Creech to the position of Maintenance Worker in the Department of Public Works and Utilities, Water Maintenance Division, and to confirm the following promotional appointments in the Department of Public Safety Division of Fire. Stephen Ludwig to the position of Assistant Fire Chief. Brian Wright to the position of Deputy Fire Chief. Benjamin Boltman to the position of Fire Captain. Ryan Pennekamp to the position of Fire Lieutenant. William Nick Banks to the position of Fire Apparatus Operator.
I move that the matters listed under the consent agenda be considered routine and enacted by one motion and one vote of consent.
Second.
Mr. Yoder, can you just clarify, item C has a typo, it has 76.823.20 instead of a comma, is that okay?
It is okay.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gank, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Council, tonight we have 4 of the 5 individuals being promoted in the fire department here to have their badges pinned on them by a family member. And at this time, I would like to introduce Chief Snively up to begin our pinning ceremony.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to introduce some of the new leadership in the fire department. Couldn't be prouder of these individuals. 4 is a lot of pinnings in one night, so I'll try to be quick. You can imagine there's quite a bit of family members here. I'll try to get the introductions all correct. So I'm going to start out tonight with Steve Ludwig. He's going to be pinned as Assistant Chief. He's here with his wife, Beth, daughters, Brittany and Kinsey, son, AJ, I believe Stephen's here as well, son-in-law, John, and his grandson, JP. So a little background about Steve. He's hired in 1996 to the city of Middletown, promoted to lieutenant in 2008, promoted to captain September of 2015, promoted to deputy chief in August of 2020. Steve is a paramedic. He's a fire service instructor, holds multiple technical rescue certifications. He has a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from the University of Cincinnati. He has a Master's of Science in Safety, Security, and Emergency Management, a graduate certificate in Fire Science from EKU. Steve also holds the Executive or EFO, Executive Fire Officer designee from the National Fire Academy. So very proud of Steve, the work that he's accomplished. The education, has a vast amount of experience. You can trust that we're in good hands. So if you would come up, Steve, and have AJ do your pinning. Congratulations.
Welcome back to days, Chief Ludwig.
Next up, Brian Wright, or we affectionately call B-Dub, for Deputy Chief. He's going to be pinned tonight from Captain to Deputy Chief. If you could come on up. He's here tonight with his significant other, Karen, sons Cooper and Chase. Karen will be doing the pinning tonight. A little background on B-Dub, or Captain Wright. Hired in 2002, was promoted to squadman in 2004, lieutenant 2015, promoted to captain in 2020. Brian Wright is a paramedic. He's a fire service instructor. He holds multiple technical rescue certifications. He's attended the National Fire Academy, command and control multi-alarms. He also has an associate's degree from Eastern Gateway Community College, and he has recently been accepted into the Ohio Fire Chiefs Ohio Fire Executive Program. Couldn't be prouder of Captain Wright. Come up.
And Captain Wright will do anything to get off days.
One more.
Good job, Brian.
Make you.
Next up, Ben Boltman. He's going to be pinned tonight as a captain. Ben is here tonight with his wife Karen, who will be doing the pinning. He's also here with his children Clara, Brendan, Marin, and Kellen. Karen is a kindergarten teacher at Hamilton City Schools, so we certainly thank you for your service. He has a sister here tonight from a lieutenant at Montgomery Fire Department. Thanks for your service. He has a cousin here. It's a firefighter paramedic with Little Miami, Claremont County. Thank you for your service. His mother and father-in-law are also here. Little background on Ben. He has quite a bit of fire service experience. However, he came to Middletown in 2013. Promoted to lieutenant in November of 2019. Then as a paramedic, he's a fire service instructor and holds multiple technical rescue certifications. Ben has a bachelor's degree of emergency and disaster management from the American Military University, which he obtained in November of 18. He's a member of the Butler County IMAT team, Incident Management Action Team. In May, Ben was elected as the union president for the IF Local 336, or the fire department local. And he was also a union steward. So proud of Ben. If you would come up and have your wife pin you tonight.
Welcome to days, Ben.
Last but not least, Ryan Pennycamp is going to be promoted tonight to lieutenant. He's here with his wife Jessica, his children Jameson, Charlotte, and Roman. Jameson will be doing the pinning tonight. A little background on Ryan. He's grown up and resides in Cincinnati. He comes from a family of public safety servants. His grandfather was a Cincinnati fireman. His father is a retired Cincinnati PD or police or PD there. He was his brother is the chief for the village of Addiston, police chief. He attended Oak Hills High School. He is a paramedic, holds rescue certifications as well. He started in Middletown in 2012. Coaches youth football and baseball on his days off. Again, want to thank you for your service and your family's service. That's awesome. Very something to be proud of. Again, I want to thank you for the time this evening to introduce the new leadership in the fire department. You'll see these guys' faces around. I'm going to keep them busy and active, serving the community. So again, very proud of them. And thank you for this evening.
Chief.
Thank you. Did you want to get a photo with all of them?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Hey, guys, can you come up real fast?
That's an order. Believe me.
There you go.
You're saying it was from me.
That's good.
Steve. That's awesome. Good job, Tom.
And as much as we know you all want to stay for the whole meeting, we respect families leaving and going to celebrate together. We can give you a minute to shuffle out if you'd like. We want you to stay, of course, but.
I was very impressed by how many of them have families that are all in service of communities. I thought that was really, really great to hear.
It's always nice to see people get promoted. It is. Those are good guys.
Be able to hear our echo here in a second.
Wow.
All the staffers up on the second level will have to come back down and find a new seat.
Mr. Yoder, if you're ready to go ahead and start legislation, I think we can safely do that.
Sure. Tonight on the agenda, you've got 7 legislative items, the first and 7th of which are proposed as emergencies. So before we get started, I'd just request a motion to waive the charter provision pertaining to second readings and emergencies.
I'll make a motion to waive the provision for 2 readings and declare ordinance number O-2022-126 and ordinance number O-2023-01 an emergency measure and read one time only.
We're also waiving the 30 days to enactment, correct?
Correct.
Second.
Do I usually say that?
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is ordinance number O-2022-126, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a development agreement with Ohio Regional Contractors LLC for the sale of city-owned property known as the former Roosevelt School Site for construction of new single-family housing and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Mr.
And so I don't have anything further to add than what we previously discussed. I do know we had a lot of inquiries about, from neighbors around this area. I think we pretty much effectively answered their questions. I know Councilman Muederspaw met with a few of them, and I feel confident that people in the neighborhood will be quite pleased with this development.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Second item is ordinance number O-2022-127, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing contract with statewide Ford Lincoln for the purchase of 3 Ford Interceptors for the Division of Police. This is a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Mr.
No
Lilly?
further comments.
Any comments or questions from council? Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance number O-2022-128 is an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Cincinnati Safety Outfitters to purchase safety equipment for 3 Ford Interceptors and the installation thereof for the Division of Police. It says on the agenda that this is a first reading, but if you recall, this is actually a second reading from a prior meeting.
So move for adoption.
Second.
No further comments.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Fourth item is ordinance number O-2022-129, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Phoenix Upfitters LLC for graphics package for decals for 3 Ford Interceptors for the Division of Police. Again, a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Lilly?
No further questions.
Any comments or questions from council? Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Fifth item is ordinance number O 2022-130, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and enter into a water supply revolving loan account agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency's Department of Environmental and Financial Assistance for the construction and installation of new generators for the water treatment plant and Yankee Road Pump Station. A second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
No further comments from the last meeting.
Any comments or questions from council? Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Sixth item is resolution number R 2022-51, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2023. This is ARPA of 2021 fund and is a second reading.
So,
So moved
Sorry.
for adoption.
second.
Just as a reminder, this is to pay for the first 6 months for the position of a uniformed officer with the Narcotics Division and a community events coordinator for the first 6 months that are budgeted for starting July 1st.
And we do have plans for how this can continue past ARPA funds in the normal budget, correct?
Yes, yes, they're built into the budget beginning July 1st.
Any comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muerspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
The seventh and final item on the agenda is ordinance number O 2023-01, an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the cooperative agreement with the Board of Education of the Middletown City School District for expansion and renovation of the Robert Sunnyhill Jr. Community Center and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Council, this is a request to raise our committed funds from 2.1 million to 2.6 million for the construction for money, additional $500,000 to go for the construction of a full-size gymnasium at the Sunnyhill Community Center. As you recall, the schools have committed $4 million. We had committed $2.1 million, and the county ARPA committed $1 million, and the coalition is still continuing to work on other sources of revenue to put towards the construction of this project.
I have a question.
Yep.
I just want to make sure before I vote on this that we're at that meeting we were at, that there is a plan in place or in play to make sure that kids from all over the city could get to the center.
Yes,
That's
and that is, the school is off, I've had some discussion with the school that they want to put some other things on the table to assure busing from all city schools to this facility. If at the end of the day, we get the fruition of the gym to come, the full-size gym to come to fruition.
Okay.
But on that same note, in terms of transportation, it was my understanding that in the evening when they're leaving the center, that they would have to have access if they needed busing to the city's, the BCRTA routes. So we'd have to make sure, but they have routes that go right by the front
Yes.
of the building already. So
Yes,
that's
that
how
is
they would
true. Yes,
That's how they would be getting home.
yes.
I'm still struggling, and I did see the email now. That's why I'm
Yeah,
trying to
sorry.
digest it here in
I sent it
10
again
minutes
while we were
before.
sitting here.
Yeah, so where the money, the 2.1 million that we committed to, the 1 million that the county committed to, the 4 million that schools committed to, where that's going and why there isn't already a full-scale gym included in that. there's just not enough data for me to make a decision. Like, I gotta see more line items and numbers and where the money is going, and I don't see that. And even this latest document, it gives square footage and generalities, but like, I still don't understand the original goals of the updates for the community center. I don't see all of that being accomplished. I don't know what's being accomplished in this. It's really high level. I'm not saying it's not, I just don't see it, and I don't have enough information to make this decision right now. It's another big ask on a same project, and we haven't had our meeting about ARPA funds yet, and so I'm struggling to throw another $500,000 out there before we budget the rest of the ARPA. I want to get the money out there, but I don't have enough information to say that it's
How much were
justified
they
yet.
originally expecting that they would get from the county, as opposed to how much they actually got?
The original request from the county was $3 to $4 million.
6.
It was, yeah.
6.
And they ended up getting less.
They ended up getting 1, right.
Right. Well, I think
So
that's
they
why
had to
the
cut
original
back. They
scope
did
of what
cut
we
back
thought
on the,
project was gonna be is so different now.
yeah. They had, how many phases were there? That was before me.
There was a number of options.
Like,
I have them all.
Similar to
yeah.
that.
I
And
think
it
in
was-
total, there were 5 phases, and this only allows them to do
with the 8 million, you could basically
2 to 3.
do what we were planning less the gym. And then there were options on the gym, you know, if you wanted locker rooms or if you wanted,
Right.
you know, a stage, you know, how that incrementally adds on. And then I think it was, I don't recall the levels, but I think it was $1 million or $1.5 million to get to the first phase and $2 million to get to the second phase. And kind of what we had heard when we toured some of the other community centers was, hey, the gym is probably the most crucial piece, not only from a recreation standpoint, but also from a revenue generating standpoint, because that's where people want to rent out. That's where the birthday parties are. That's where the community performances are. That's where the churches want to rent. So that was kind of the discussion that the group had had.
Well, and that's why I asked for pro forma on that to say, okay, it sounds like that is, but do we know that there's revenue generating going to be coming from that sufficiently to cover that? And then where's that going back into the community center? Okay, where is that benefit to?
That's one of the things that is still under discussion, how much will come back or be used for programming of some of the things they got going, with the exception, I believe, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, with the exception of the daycare. Most of it was going back into like the culinary program and some of the older youth programs.
I will say at the meeting we were at, that I can't say it was either the superintendent or the treasurer, but they told us that the rental revenue would go back to operations.
Right, yeah,
Into that building. I don't remember which one said it, so I don't want to say, but
right.
I remember that was said.
And if any was left over, maybe some for programming.
Yes.
Yes.
It was my understanding that having this addition to the facility was something that was supposed to help with that idea of making this project sustainable. Because if it doesn't have these sort of elements, it makes it even more challenging for it to be sustainable because they're not getting those revenues.
So what could be cut out then in order to keep the budget as it is and create, I mean, if it's such a critical element.
I won't speak for Jackie, but one of the things that Jackie Phillips kept harping on in our meeting was, instead of considering the things that we could be cutting to make this project happen, why can't we make more things happen? Because, you know, this is our one opportunity to go in and
Because
and
it
really
costs
make-
money.
I hear you there. It costs money, but so do the improvements that this community center really needs. So, you know, that was one of the things, without her being here to speak for herself, that she kept repeating, and that's what I keep remembering.
Right. To have the programs we want to have there from essentially from birth to graduation, will take various rooms, additions to be able to do some of the programming that I sent out in an email. So I don't, without cutting out programs,
Well,
I don't see.
I think the part that kind of fills it in, and maybe it's never going to be like the perfect answer probably that you're looking for, but one of the big reasons the schools is a partner is they don't have enough early childhood space. So they say, hey, we can build an early childhood space at Creekview, or we can build an early childhood space, attach it to the community center, put in walls that are movable so that we can have multi-use space. If we take that out because we're building a gym, They don't have their early childhood
Right.
space. We don't have the flex space for the other classes. So we can't take money from over here and redirect it to the gym because
I guess my biggest
It
thing
all
is
falls apart
every
with that
one of
all
these
day.
projects we're looking at funding with ARPA is gonna come back with a 500, 1 million, $2 million extra ask. Every one of them. They're all gonna have the same argument, but we need it to do this. To get to this next level, we need it. And I get it. But is this the priority? Is this it? Do we know that? Because we haven't had that discussion, and we're 2 weeks away from having it. I feel like we've said that we know that this money so here's the thing, we haven't been able to increase our income tax bases in Middletown for a long time, right? We're working on it. We are working on it really hard, but it is critical to the future. And so, if we don't do that and we don't use the ARPA funds to look at an economic impact growth in the end, this money for ARPA is going to be exactly what it is right now, which is a one-time windfall that benefits 1 to 2 generations, and then we go back to the broken record. So I just want to make sure that we are really focused on the big picture and that the money is going to help us make more money for our citizens in the end so that we can build big gymnasiums when we want and we can do all these things. So I just want to make sure we recognize every single one of these ARPA requests is going to have this same ask, and where do we draw the line? And just because this one needs to be expended before another one, does that mean it gets the money? And I don't know the timeline, why this has to be done right now. I'm not 100% sure on that either. I mean, I know they've got to start. Of course, everybody's got a timeline and there's backups. I just don't know the exact reason.
I think
For the first
staff's
reading
take on this
emergency.
also is we're looking at the big picture, and we're looking at, while this might not be necessarily be seen as something that really affects economic development, I think this improves the lifestyle of a lot of Middletonians. And I think this is something that we spend the money today, we're going to see the fruits of it 50 years from now.
And I feel that way about all the projects too. I mean, I think that that's the case. So I'm struggling because I just feel like everybody's asking for more. And I think if this does get approved, we have to at least start to publicly recognize that this is an official investment in that neighborhood, because it's kind of been talked around a little bit. But at this point, if we're looking at spending more money there, that neighborhood needs to also recognize that we are putting money into the south end, and that this is part of our commitment to that area as well. And
Yes,
as much as we say it's a community resource, it is, which we have to put money down there. I just want to make sure that we recognize where that's going.
Yeah. The location is one thing, but this is ultimately an investment in all of the youth of Middletown as a community center that serves all of the youth of Middletown. And I see it as something that drives our economy and that it supports the youngest members of our community and shows them that they are worth our investment.
Of course, not doubting that in the slightest.
Sure.
And not agreeing to spend another $500,000 on this project doesn't say that someone's not committed to our youth either.
I'm just saying how I feel about the expenditure of an additional $500,000.
So what, if we were to spend this, what are you guys not wanting to spend money on for ARPA? Where does your $500,000 come from? Which project?
we don't have a budget yet, so it's hard to say which one where it's coming from.
I don't really have an idea on that either.
Yeah, and for me, this is a project that we did already commit ARPA money to, that we made a hard commitment to. So
Right.
It's not necessarily taking away from another project that we've committed hard money to. It's taking money from the pool of ARPA funds and saying, we can either decide to make this decision tonight and agree to increase the amount of money or not, and maybe it's something that we go back to and have an opportunity to discuss again with the ARPA budget, or we can say, yes, we all agree that this that's part of taking it to the vote, is to decide whether we think that this is something to invest in right now or something that needs to continue to be discussed.
And I would just add,
Obviously.
we're taking a community asset owned by the city that we'll potentially have put in $2.6 million, and we've effectively, tripled that for a city-owned asset. We've put in 2.6, we're getting out a $9 or $10 million asset. So I think in that sense, it makes sense financially as well.
And this, I think, will help with the sustainability of it, which is, for me, what's most important long-term. I mean, we all know we can build a great, fantastic building, but if nobody's going to it, and if it's not being upkept, it's going to fall apart, right? And this is what's going to drive revenue to that place. And they're not asking us to pay, like, I'm not going to approve $1.5 million. I'm not going to approve that, and I think I made that clear when I first met with them, but here's our portion, you guys figure out the rest, and that's the way I feel about it. And if we can help bridge the gap, that's how I run my business, is always trying to bridge the gap. How can we come to a common ground? I feel like we are putting a significant amount towards this. It's an investment, like everyone up here said, but I'm okay with giving some if they can figure out the rest and making it sustainable, so that way in 20 years, the next council is not up here having to pay $200,000-$300,000 more a year to keep that place up because it's so much larger, and that's my take on it.
Amy, do you have an update on my request to replace the representative that I had appointed and also Tal's representative to the Community Center Committee?
I do not have an update. I will continue to work on that, though.
Okay, because we're underrepresented as council right now because 2 of our appointees left, and I've been trying to get this through for a couple months now. I just want to get them on there.
Not taking sides with either group in this, but I guess from a personal standpoint, more of an emotional standpoint than a financial standpoint, is I can tell you that programs like this, and I know they're asking for a lot of money, but I'm a product of programs like this, of what can happen when you have programs, whether it's the Green Box and the Parks programs, whether it's the Community Center and Miss Sill and Mr. Jack, just growing up in there. I think it's a need. I see what you're saying, Mayor, and I see what you're saying, Monica. It is a lot of money, but I just know what value things like this bring to kids that don't have a lot, or who don't have anywhere to go, or can't pay Y fees, or can't pay fees to do other things, to have this element in their lives. And I'm going to be a yes vote. I don't agree with paying $1 million, but I would be willing to do the 500. Simply because I know the value and what that can do long-term for somebody. But I do understand the concerns on both sides, and I can't fault or argue with either of you guys on that.
How much private investment dollars have been put towards this?
That's going towards sustainability of the project. I don't know
How
the
much have
number.
been committed?
You're talking
to
about
that?
programming.
Yeah. I don't know the number.
I don't know the
this is what I'm talking- I
exact
just don't-
answer to that.
How much does it need? How much is I have the numbers are,
Well, as far as the number, what do they need? I mean, the new full-size gymnasium that they
no,
want
for
to build.
sustainability, I'm saying, and like how, the business model, is it there? Who's paying what for sustainability? Because now I'm questioning sustainability. Are they gonna come back to us for more money to sustain it? I just don't
I'd
know.
encourage you to reach out to Steven, maybe have a one-on-one with him, because he's kind of heading that up and has made some good headway, and I don't really want to speak for
Yeah.
him. So I would
Yeah.
encourage you to reach out to him.
Okay, I mean, I felt like
They-
I had
they
been
are
given
raven-
everything that was out
raising-
there. I've been asking for a while. So I thought I had everything, and if that's all there is, that's why I'm a little. Okay. I'd like to see more, if we can, get to the days where we've got a community center that's getting help funded privately as well. It's how we, businesses attract, grow, retain employees is by having good infrastructure and support like this as well. So I just see all this taxpayer dollars, and I know there's effort going towards that, and that's also where I think also in our council comments, if we can try to help educate each other about what's going on in some of these boards and commissions. Maybe it'd be easier to not have all these questions all the time. And this is a new thing. I know we're just starting that, but it would help.
We do have a meeting this Thursday. It is an open meeting if anybody would like to come. It's at
6
o'clock
p.m.? Yeah,
At the center. Yep.
great. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey,
Yes?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muerspaw.
Yes.
I think we have another one, don't we?
That was it.
We pulled number
That
8.
was number
Oh.
7. Number 8 was
Sorry,
taken off.
I'm
My
waiting for number
apologies.
8. Okay. Okay, that brings us to new business. Does anyone have any topics for new business?
Real quick, and I don't want to hold anybody up longer, but we had, just to say, we had 1 million calls about snow and ice in the city over that storm. And people out there saying that they never saw a salt truck in Middletown, they never saw them on the main drags. That's just false. Trust me, I was behind them all the time. I know we're working short. I know we have 600 road miles, but I can tell you from what I saw, they were out there constantly. I know Scott and Nikita are here, but sometimes it's an act of God when you have ice under that snow. And I had people tell me left and right, well, other cities are spotless, they're clean. And maybe some were cleaner, but I can tell you I was in those other cities too, because I'm in real estate and I was still out looking at houses. They weren't spotless. Sorry, they just weren't. Maybe they were cleaned a little bit more, but when people message and they send, post and text to say our streets haven't been touched, I assure you they were touched over and over. And I appreciate the work that they do because, and I told our manager maybe the solution in the future, and Scott, I don't know if you guys even do this anymore, but I know a long time ago we used to contract out to help, and that basically saved us money because we weren't hiring new employees, we weren't buying trucks, but we contracted out. I can tell you police and fire who had their CDLs would go out and do that to help as well. I don't know what the solution is, but I just know that it's not true that they weren't out there because they were out there constantly. I was out there at 2 in the morning and I saw them out there. And they're scraping and they're salting and they're working doubles, and I don't know what else to tell people, but just assure they were out there. I'm sure all the council saw them out there.
You showing houses at 2 a.m.?
I was out at 2. No, I wasn't showing houses. I was somewhere I shouldn't have been, but I was out at 2 a.m. So I was leaving actually the manager's house. But no, but all kidding
Good cover
aside,
there.
we appreciate the work that they do, and I know they took a beating and they didn't deserve to take a beating. Okay, that's all I have.
Just to quickly address that, first of all, I want to say thanks to Public Works. They did do a great job, and I'm going to say this. Was it perfect? No, but this storm was a bomb cyclone that hit us, followed up by 40 degrees below zero. It's not like the salt was going to work for a few days, all right? And did we do the side roads? Not for about 3 days. But if we would have taken off that compacted snow, you would have been driving on ice. You would have been stuck. Tires would have been spinning. They focused on the main arteries and the main roads. I think they did a great job where that is concerned. Police and fire services were able to get to emergencies. How many people died in Middletown due to this weather emergency? 0. How many people died in the state of Ohio? 28. How many people died in the city of Buffalo? 46. How many people died in Middletown? 0. That's the thing we need to be happy about. Yes, it made it inconvenient for some of us to drive within the neighborhoods on some of the side streets, but I had to drive slower. With that said, did we do everything perfectly? No. And we've sat down. I met with Public Works this morning. There's some things we can do different. Listen, while most of us were inside our warm homes opening up our Christmas presents, we had 17 to 20 guys out there missing the holiday with their family, which I get, it's their job. But they were out there doing a good job. And one thing we didn't do, which we could have called an emergency and called in more people, but we chose not to. That's something that we won't do in the future. Once we get and are able to utilize the GPS mapping by the supervisors and they can see real time where the routes are that are being done, this will help in the future also. But please understand, you know, I got a lot of calls of people appreciating the job Public Works did, and you know, and they did. So hats off to our Public Works. You know, we didn't do everything perfect, and we'll make the adjustments to do better in the future. But I think the important thing is we had a safe Christmas holiday in the city of Middletown.
I had one kind of strategic question or thought out there about East Central Avenue. Now that we're starting to look at like some new infill residential complexes, and are we considering long-term, thinking about making that, wanting to make Central Avenue on the east end more walkable, perhaps even establish a second door district? Is that something you guys are, I don't imagine we can extend it because going over a busy University Avenue might not be the best for
Where
traveling
exactly are we
dreams.
talking?
Starting where at
Midtown? Are you
Sutphen?
talking about Midtown area?
Like the other side of University on Central.
So like starting at Sutphen area?
So up,
Yeah.
like up towards the old Lincoln site,
Yeah.
between there, okay. I think that would be something to bring up at one of the next DORA meetings, to talk about with the rest of the DORA district. That would certainly be something to run past them and to talk to Chief Burke about. I know being a business on that stretch of Central, it's something that, I've talked to other businesses on that, in that business district about in the past. Not with any kind of seriousness that we were ready to get there yet, but I mean, it's certainly a discussion that I think we could all have.
I'm not opposed to it. I remember in middle school and high school, they used to have big block parties there, and everybody's in the middle of the street.
Cindy
Every
Lambert
different-
used to block it off right in front of where the restaurant is
Yep,
and have block
yeah.
parties.
I mean, I remember, that was great memories for me growing up, so, I mean, you've got a lot of residential people living there, so
Yeah.
I guess you'd have to listen to
Yes.
that feedback.
I
but-
think like with, on the former Lincoln site, looking to do townhomes, those often attract people who enjoy a walkable lifestyle
It's a
more.
lifestyle, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so I just, as we're thinking long-term and looking at infrastructure and how we do things, if that's a goal of ours, I just want to plant that seed that if we're wanting to do that, just kind of keep it in the backs of our minds.
In terms of
we make
size, it wouldn't
decisions.
create a DORA district that's any larger than the one that Hamilton has. Theirs stretches over their river and includes both of those neighborhoods, the downtown district as well as the business district across the river. My only thought is, well, what it does is it extends, from a technical standpoint, it extends the area where D5J liquor licenses can be placed. So that would be one of the, I would think, one of the biggest strategic changes to consider. Burke's over there shaking his head, yes. Because those D5Js that were issued to the business district when it was initially established, I think there were 10 of them, are limited in their location to inside of that district and inside of the
Those are the
boundaries of that.
Sunday.
No, this is a full D5 license, but the J designation makes it so that it can only live inside of an entertainment district, and it can't be transferred outside of that entertainment district. So when you change the boundaries of that district, you change the boundaries of where those liquor licenses can be located. So it allows those newly established licenses to jump across University and into that second business district. Just
If they were to maintain one big DORA.
if it was one, yeah, if it was one subsequent DORA. I think if we created a second DORA district in the city limits in a different location that was not connected, I'm not sure what the process would be for that, but I wonder if they would establish 10 more new additional licenses. Like if there was one, say, out by the highway, it would create more new licenses as opposed to expanding the district.
And I'm certainly no liquor law expert, but there's a difference between a DORA and a community entertainment district. There's technically two separate things altogether. DORA is just a designated outdoor refreshment area. So that question really deals with, do you want people to be able to walk around in an outdoor area with, alcohol in a cup, in a designated cup? that doesn't include the expansion of the liquor license. That's what a community entertainment district is. That's where, as an economic development driver, you created a community entertainment district that allows for the influx of the additional liquor licenses. So those are two oftentimes interrelated issues that don't have to be. We can unpack that more.
Yeah,
as part
I
of the
don't know what
concept.
it would be if you had two entertainment districts that had an adjoined Dora
Yeah,
district.
all
I'm
things
not
we'd have to
sure.
think through, unpack.
Yeah.
Again, I'm certainly not off the cuff a liquor law
Yeah,
expert.
I'm just
but
sharing what
Dora
I
and
have learned
PDs
and,
are
yeah,
interrelated but separate.
yeah.
I've heard it mentioned by a few people around town here and there, like, what do we ever think about it as something? And then now that we're starting to approve more things that are going in down there, I thought, maybe we can.
I would just want to
Toss
really
it
hear
around.
from the neighborhood and from the business owners there, as opposed to council pushing it out. If, you know, I'd be happy to talk about it, but
Yeah,
I'd
I
like
think
them to kind of lead it, because it's their neighborhood and their-
facilitate something like that would be the first place to start, I would think. I had just one thing for new business, something that was brought up during the most recent park board meeting when we were talking about the Atticus development and the waiving of the park impact fee. It was actually, I think, the mayor who mentioned it when we were talking about it, that the park board has they have no say when something like that happens. Ultimately, it's the decision of planning commission whether that waiver goes through. But I would recommend that maybe we require a recommendation from park board to planning commission prior to that request of planning commission, just so that we're taking the opinion of our park board and applying it to something that is applicable for their knowledge and their position in our city boards and commissions.
Yeah, that's actually a concept we're already working on with Development Services, reviewing that in light of the Atticus proposal.
Okay.
The concept of, and I think in the involved codified ordinance provision, in essence, the concept is that if it's going to be, it deals with the impact fees, and if it's going to be a private park that's only for those residents, then you can't get the, entirety of the fee waived. I think maybe you can get 50% waived if it's private, and then if it's open to the public, you can get 100, or maybe it's only if it's, I forget the exact amounts that are there, but the greater point is, what you're talking about, is that it's up to I think it's Planning Commission, isn't it?
It is planning
Planning
commission.
Commission basically gets to say if the land that they're designating is open space, is suitable for public park purposes, and the question becomes, who really should be the one that makes that decision of, do you want your Planning Commission to be the ones that make that call? Do you maybe want the park board to make that call? Do you as the city council want to make that call? So I think the way that it's drafted right now is a little inartful and could be updated better.
I think during that planning commission meeting also, I had inquired to James if planning commission so decided, could they waive all of it regardless of whether it was public or private? And he said, yes, technically planning commission can do either.
We're looking
So-
into that further as well.
Okay, okay.
And don't quote me on the amounts. I forget if it's private, they
I
can
think if
get
it's private, it's
50%.
50%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you were close.
Yeah,
Correct.
but that's some of the concept was Planning Commission able to waive what they waived if it's conceptually private? Additionally, as who do you all want to make that decision? Because bear in mind, the concept's supposed to be if it's open space, theoretically, it's supposed to be deeded or restricted somehow to where it's truly open space. And does the city want that? And who's the right city body to make that call? Do you want it to be Planning Commission? Do you want it to be Parks? Do you want it to be Council? Right now, I think the word in there, quite frankly, the word in there right now is the city can decide. And it's not really clear, well, what do we mean by city? Who is the city of Middletown? So that's one of the projects we're looking at right now.
Okay. I know Paul was in that meeting as well, that park board meeting, so I assumed that it had maybe gotten off the ground, but I just wanted to see if there was an update on that. So I'm curious to stay tuned and see what that determination is. I think from the park board standpoint, they were sort of sitting there looking at this Parks Master Plan that frankly has a big price tag attached to it. And they were concerned that if we continue waiving these impact fees, how do we ever make any headway on some of the improvements that our parks really desperately need, so.
And I think the ultimate answer to that, not to get too philosophical here, is you all get to decide as council what, if any, amendments you want to make to your codified ordinances. And if you want to change the way in which it works, do so to accomplish council's goals.
Does anyone else have any feelings about where they feel like that should lie? I mean, while we've got an open discussion in new business,
I'd like to see the park board have a recommendation provided to planning commission before planning commission votes on a waiver of a park impact fee.
but keep it with planning commission to make that decision, or, or does planning commission make a recommendation to council and council ultimately waives that fee? I think that's the point of the discussion, is that it could go a lot of different ways.
I don't want to take away necessarily something from a board or commission that they have the ability to do, but I do think it's helpful for us at this level when you have any project of any sorts that's asking for abatements, that we be aware of the layers of abatements that they're wanting. I didn't even know before this came up earlier last meeting that they were looking for, that we could even waive park impact fees. It's like you add that on top of the other things that we're doing, at least we have the ability to consolidate those and look at it as a holistic package as opposed to just a one-off at a board and commission level. The one question I had for, I'm guessing it's Mr. Yoder, if this does become I don't know, public park because we waived impact fees, is the city all of a sudden responsible for maintaining that?
That's further things to clarify. And I have to remember how the ordinance is currently drafted, but I do think that it's supposed to be deeded over or restricted by the city. So then the concept becomes, do you want to, I mean, being blunt, do you want your park commission, that's mostly an advisory board, to decide when the city is going to accept real property over which it may have some long-term funding obligations? They may be well-suited to decide whether or not, okay, is it suitable for a public park, but they don't control the city's purse strings like you all do. So where do you want that buck to stop?
I think council should decide if they want to create a new public park that they're going to maintain indefinitely.
Is there an option to do a long-term land lease of $1 in that situation where we still own it, but then the private entity, if they're leasing it for $1, then they're responsible for maintaining it?
There's different ways in which that's done, yeah. Some, like you'll see oftentimes with residential subdivisions, say in a PUD, and they've got open space that's there. Most codes will say, okay, that's fine, but you're gonna have to have an HOA, and you're gonna have to show us the bylaws that show that it's going to generate sufficient income that's gonna go to the HOA, for the HOA to in turn maintain it in perpetuity. That's the kind of classic way that you'll see kind of PUD residential subdivisions working. But yeah, I mean, there's a variety of different ways you can do it. But yeah, at the end of the day, you got to figure out who's going to maintain it, how much is it going to cost, and who do you want to have the authority over deciding, okay, go or no go on that.
I mean, I'd like to see park board involved in some way, and I certainly don't want to take that decision-making away from planning commission, as Tal said, but I do think that there has to be some level of transparency when we're approving planned developments and they're coming back and asking for waivers, so however that looks.
Yeah, I mean, as a planning commission, that board has nothing really to lose from waiving a park impact fee, for example. I'm trying to think, like, is there?
But maybe if
an
they had a
interest level.
recommendation
Right.
from the park board that said, we don't think that this qualifies as a park, or yes, we think this could qualify as a park, and we think that it could be eligible, or we really don't think this is eligible. So, I mean, I think just having that recommendation, in the same way that we get a staff recommendation when making decisions on those boards and commissions, I think just having that recommendation would, at the very least, be helpful.
Yeah, we can work on it. I mean, we can keep talking tonight or otherwise, but it seems to me the reason why planning commission has it is typically these requests come within the grander scheme of a development project that's going before Planning Commission. So it seems befitting that that conversation happens there. But the two components of it that are kind of somewhat outside the purview of Planning Commission is suitability for it to be a park, which is kind of a Parks Board thing, and the long-term financial repercussions to the city, which is really a council thing. So those are your kind of three bodies that interact. You could theoretically say, you know, okay, Planning Commission makes, I don't know that this is right, but Planning Commission makes the decision, but before you do that, you gotta get a certification from the Park Board and from City Council that we're all good with it from a park suitability perspective and a financial perspective. You can do that. It sounds pretty, but at the same time, you want to be business friendly, and the more bureaucracy that you create can be problematic too.
Growth is a good problem to have.
Growth is a good problem to have.
Ben, if we did move something like that to a council approval, kind of like a zone change or something like that, could that be a consent or motion agenda item, or would that have to go before legislation?
I don't know offhand. My gut says it could be a consent agenda thing, but I think, well, I'm not positive. I'll want to get back to you on that.
Thinking of a way.
It's typically things that are ministerial in nature, perfunctory, not things that are
Right.
vote on big projects of, hey, yeah, we deem this to be a park thing that we want to take on. It's typically non-contentious ministerial things. And I don't know that I would characterize a council vote on whether or not they want to accept a property as a long-term park to be ministerial in nature.
Well, if we're talking about it as simply a recommendation to Planning Commission, that would be different than an actual vote on a,
And do you want it to be a recommendation that Planning Commission can say, I don't care that council doesn't want to accept this?
yeah.
Maybe you don't want it to be a recommendation. Maybe you want to make it a requirement.
Yeah, we need to think about it more.
Yeah.
At a
things we're
minimum, we
working
know
on.
we want the park board involved though, right? I mean, do we feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I think they want to be involved.
Yeah.
I think, just as a general comment about Park Board, they want to find more ways to be more useful and more involved. And I think that we could benefit from that as well.
Well, any other new business items then? Well, so we don't beat that one down too bad. Okay, then we have a request to move to executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment of public officials. I anticipate we would move to open session to appoint a few more board and commission members after that. So do we have a motion to move to executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Gank, you please call the roll.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes. Okay, so we will come back in an open session briefly to appoint a few more board and commission members, and then we will adjourn until January 17th at 5:30 PM here in council chambers. Until then, blue skies over Middletown. Okay, do we have a motion to move back to open session?
So moved.
Ms. Skaggs, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon? Mr. Muederspaw? Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Okay, Amy, and I think we have a couple board and commission appointments here, a few to
We
make.
do.
If you're ready to announce those, and we can vote on them.
To appoint to the Park Board, Danielle Woodward, Matthew Armbruster, and Dave Pierce, and to appoint Corey Carter to the non-historic district resident position on the Historic Commission.
Second.
Mr. Moon? Yes. Mr. Muederspaw? Yes. Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Okay, with that, we will officially adjourn until January 17th at 5:30 PM. Till then, blue skies over Middletown.
Thank you.